Jay here from Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm live. I'm in the studio, which means you lot need to get involved in the chat and the comments. We're talking about all things Manchester United and most of the stories this morning, focusing on that result against Arsenal. Ruben Amorim's first defeat as Manchester United manager. 2 goals for Arsenal coming from set pieces. Very annoying, very frustrating, but it is what it is, and I think it sort of acts as a reminder that whilst things have been decent under Ruben Amorim, you can see the changes made, you can see how the team have improved. There's still a long way to go. We know that. We know it's going to be a long process. It's certainly going to take more than 3 or 4 games before he's able to fully implement his style. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Loads of people in the chat already. Let's have a look what people are saying. Mick Holohan's in here. Destino Portugal says, Bom dia, Jay. Arsenal could let Arteta go and just keep the set piece, coach. Save themselves a fortune, mate. Aaron Blaney says, morning, Jay. How excited are you for Lenny Yoro now back in the squad? I thought he looked good, didn't he, Lenny Yoro? When he came on, I know it was only 20 minutes, however long, I can't remember the exact amount of time it was, but I thought he did well. You can see why Manchester United bought him, you can see why Real Madrid wanted him, so I'm excited to see a back three of eventually this season of him, Martinez and De Ligt. I thought De Ligt did well as well, to be honest with you. He's unlucky not to score really when he had our best chance. It's just those set pieces, man, it's frustrating. Maurice Marshall, social anxiety TV or Social Anxiety TV says, RIP Abdullah. Thank you again for all the messages we've had regarding the tragic news about Abdullah that you'll have seen, or you might not have done. We did a tribute at the beginning of the watch along. There's a pinned tweet, I think, on our socials with a little tribute to Abdullah, and it has been a very, very difficult time for all of us. We all know and love Abdullah. Well, we know him very well. He's someone we've worked with and a friend I've been friends with for years. So it's hit us hard, but the outpouring of support has been amazing. It really has. I can't thank people enough. I've had so many messages. The channel's had so many messages, and it does makes it a little bit easier. We are very, very grateful. We're going to talk about Ruben Amorim and what he's been saying. So you can see here, he says about set pieces. We already knew that it would be a tough game. I think the corners changed the game, the set pieces. Then we lost momentum. We tried everything there. Then to control the game again, you could feel it, or you feel it in the first half in the environment of the stadium that we were causing problems. We need to improve in a lot of areas, but we were controlling the game. So yeah, I get where he's coming from. I thought the first 45 was good from United. A lot of people questioning the formation, or not the formation, the team that he sent out. But Arsenal didn't really have that many clear-cut chances in those first 45 minutes. He talks about the corners. He said they are very good because they have a lot of time working on that, especially on that. They have big players for that, so it is a strategy. We had 2 weeks to work on that. We tried to do it, but we know every team in the Premier League is suffering with set pieces. It was a shame because we're not playing very well, but also Arsenal was not playing very well. Then a little bit more. We were competing during the game. If De Ligt can score that moment, the momentum will be different, but we tried to play. They are a very organised team. It's very hard to score when they have an advantage. I think we've got a clip actually from Amorim. Should we have the clip regarding formation? This is from the press conference. I think is this from the press conference from last night, from the post-match press conference. Let's see what Amorim had to say.
It just it's not because I like to change all the time, but we have to have all the squad fit. So, for example, Harry Maguire has a time limit. Time Alasse has a time limit. Mason Mount has a time limit. Lenny Yoro has a really time limit. So we have to manage winning games, different methodology, different way of playing, more meters to press. And tomorrow we have to assess. And the guys that has a little bit risk to some injury, they will not play. So we have to have everybody to work, to play, and to improve the squad.
So you can see there what the points he's making about the changes, and how it's not just, he says, it's not just because he likes to make changes all the time. It's about the fitness of the squad, how limits. They talks about the time limits with people like Lenny Yoro, Mason Mount, and Tyrone Malacia. Tyrone Malacia, I thought he did okay in that first half, and he was subbed. It's probably one of those where you look at it and going, okay, how many minutes has this kid played? in the last 18 months. What was it, 90, I think? He played 245 minutes, and one of those was against Huddersfield under 21s, the other one against Bodo Glimt. So can you leave him on for you can get rid of that for an extended amount of time? Probably not. I don't think, you have to manage these minutes. Same as he mentioned with Mason Mount. Same with Lenny Yoro. We know Lenny Yoro obviously came in. There was a story by Laurie Whitwell, who's going to be on the channel later on, by the way, later on today, where he mentioned the fact that United knew there was this issue with, I think, his metatarsal before he arrived, but they said it's not a deal breaker. It's worth getting him because it's something that will heal, and we can still obviously get hopefully many years out of him, and he's a top class player. It's just annoying that he got injured during pre-season, so we've not seen him yet. I mean, he never kicked the ball competitively under Erik ten Hag, the manager, or certainly the manager who was in charge when he was brought in. So Lenny Yoro's someone who's got to be managed. Tyrone Malacia, Mason Mount, there's one or two others as well, and I think it's different with certain parts of rotation, because you look at it and you go, okay, we know that the likes of Yoro, the likes of Malacia, the likes of Mount haven't played a lot of football and have had injury issues. Luke Shaw obviously played, what was it, half or a third of a game, or whatever it was, half an hour, and he's injured again. There's certain players where injury is the problem. Other players, sort of attack-wise, it's something slightly different. It's more a case of which is the right player for this game, who's the player that can cause the most problems for the opposition. Rasmus Højlund obviously got a brace against Bodo Glimt, didn't it? Was dropped for the Everton game. Then you saw Joshua Zirkzee, Marcus Rashford scoring. They were dropped for the game last night. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does rotation-wise with the attackers. I think defensively, it's more a case of who's available, who's fit. Attacking-wise, I think there is more of a decision to be made there on who you can rely on, which players are sort of in form, and which players are going to cause the opposition the most problems. Because I think attacking-wise, last night, I thought everyone was disappointing, to be honest with you. I thought Diallo, who came on, did well. But other than that, Højlund didn't really get a lot of the ball. Marcus Rashford didn't do anything when he came on, and Joshua Zirkzee gave the ball away far too often when he came on. And also Alejandro Garnacho, I don't know whether he's suffering from confidence. He didn't seem like he was, it seemed like he was holding him back a little bit. There was times when I thought he was going to really run at the defenders, and he didn't, and it just didn't quite happen for him. Akash K says, sending respect and condolences on the passing of Abdullah. I respect that, and thank you. Joe Corcoran says, morning Jay, I thought there were a lot of good things in that match last night. Despite the result, Amorim is making certain players better, and that's a fair expectation of a new coach. I agree with that. I think you can see what he's doing already, and I like the fact he's gone with this formation. He's like, this is the formation. Now we see players who can adapt to it, rather than him adapting his philosophy to suit the players. It makes sense. It's still very early. You'd probably have wanted a game of this magnitude. Arsenal away is one of the three hardest games you can have. I think it's Arsenal away, City away, and the Scousers away. Those are the three toughest games you can have. To have that as your third league game when you're a new manager isn't ideal. You'd probably want that further down the line, wouldn't you, when you've had a couple of months in the job. But it is what it is. And we've seen the changes made. We've seen the effects he's had so far, Ruben Amorim. So I can understand where Joe's coming from with that one. With you can see there has been some positive changes, and I don't think you can watch that game last night and completely. I didn't anyway. You might have a different opinion. Completely lose your mind at what happened. It was always a complete shambles from start to finish. It wasn't. Arsenal scored 2 goals from set pieces. Something they've worked on. The main gripe I had last night wasn't about the defence. I don't even mind conceding corners. You can concede corners with good defending. I know 2 of them were given away very cheaply by Garnacho gave the ball away, and the Marcus Rashford one was a complete joke. But if you defend, just because you concede in corners doesn't mean you're having a nightmare. You can do good things defensively and concede a corner. The issue is going forward. We didn't do anything. We just didn't do anything going forward. Was it 1 shot on target, and that was a header from Matthijs de Ligt? It's not good enough. United need to be doing better there in the final third, and that's something that Ruben Amorim has got to fix. We've got another clip from the manager as well. If you want, what's he saying on this one? This is judging performances and not results.
No, I make the evaluation of a game regardless the result. Like I said, the 4-0, you can take positive things, but we have to improve. Yeah, and you already knew that. But you can feel it in the first half, especially in the end of the first half. You can feel it, they were not comfortable. You can feel it in the stadium. So you can take that. We had one day to put a strategy, and they can cope with that. They block, especially the right side of Arsenal with a lot of players there. We managed to control very well this moment. I think the difference today was the set pieces, because the set pieces you see a goal, and then the momentum change, and it's really hard for us to take control of the full control of the game. But we try it, and was that the set pieces.
So, I mean, listen, you can get where he's coming from with the set piece point as well, but also it's interesting about performance. He spoke about this, and he's mentioning this about the Everton game and the Arsenal game, and now it's not just the results. And it's good that he's saying that, and it's good that he's looking at it that way. Because you can look at a result on a piece of paper and go, oh, United won, everything must be rosy, everything's wonderful. But you have to look at context. And also, it's on the flip side of that, you can look at, oh, United lost, everything's a disaster. It's not, is it? So you can take positives and negatives from both defeats and victories. That's the job of a manager. That's the job of the head coach, if you will, to analyse the performance, to see who's playing well, what's working, what isn't. And it seems like he's got a good grasp of it. Don't forget as well, you're looking at a manager in Mikel Arteta, who's at home, a team that's doing well in the league, at the top end of the league, and he's in his what? Is it his 6th season in charge of Arsenal? Something like that? He's been there a while, hasn't he? Against a manager who's in charge of what? His 4th game, his 3rd league game. So it would have been a big ask. I know I got carried away and I was predicting United to win, but it would have been a big ask for Ruben Amorim to get a result at the Emirates against an Arsenal team that are obviously doing very well. And also, listen, I know they were missing Gabriel, but they had a pretty strong team, didn't they, as well? They weren't missing loads of players. United missing Kobbie Mainoo and Lisandro Martinez. That is a blow to Manchester United. I think, you look at it that way as well. They're missing 2 players that I think probably would have started. So there's positives and negatives to take from every game, and I'm glad that the manager sees that, he's addressing that, and he's not just sort of getting carried away with the results. And it'll be interesting now, because I feel that with Ruben Amorim, he's got this sort of blank canvas, if you will. He's got this ability where he could say to the board or whatever, or to the squad, like, look, these are players that aren't going to work in my system eventually. I don't think he's going to make that decision right now, but he can say in the summer, he can say these are players that aren't going to work in the aren't going to work for me. I don't need them, don't want them, whatever, and then get moved on. And I think the board will back him. This isn't the thing with Eric Ten Hag. Was certain players that some of whom he'd brought in, some of them were there for a long time, whatever, and had done well for him, that he might feel like he owed something to. Ruben Amorim doesn't owe anyone anything here. He didn't buy any of these players. He didn't bring them through the academy. They haven't helped him, keep him in a job. He's got no sort of reason to stick with them other than what they're currently doing on the football pitch. And if they're not performing for him, if he can look at the end of the season or whenever it is and go, look, they've not been up to scratch, then I think he's got every right to get rid of him. And El, who's been a member of the academy for 3 months, says, Arsenal were there for the taking. Too much respect. Maybe it was respect. Maybe it was pragmatism. I just don't think we were good enough in that final third. I just don't think we had the final ball was sloppy. There wasn't the belief. It just wasn't what I was expecting. I was a little bit disappointed, if I'm being brutally honest. Let's talk about potential incomings. Let's talk about Victor Gyökeres. It feels like he's the main one that everyone's focusing on. There's a story here in the Manchester Evening News, and it's like an opinion-based piece with a story, and it's talking about how Luis Enrique has told the French club he isn't interested in signing Victor Gyökeres. There's a lot of people who expect a lot of clubs to come in for Gyökeres in the summer. If not January, they might see some action, but more likely going to be in the summer. I'd be very surprised if Sporting let him go in January. PSG were linked. They're not the only ones who are interested in him, or were, according to reports, interested in him. But it's Foot Mercato saying that Luis Enrique has told the powers that be at PSG he don't need him, he don't want him. I mean, I don't know with PSG. There's always some shenanigans going on there, isn't there, with strikers and what's going on, and lots of comings and goings, and every player's being linked with a move away and a link with every half-decent striker. But apparently they're not in for him. We'll have to wait and see whether that sort of clears the way for Manchester United. I think a lot is going to depend on what happens between now and the end of the season. If at the end of the season you've got the likes of Xerxes, Højlund, and even Marcus who can play up top, not really showing Ruben Amorim any reason to believe in them, then I think any of them three, if not two of them or all of them, could end up being, moved on. I think, listen, I know it's sounds drastic moving on all three attackers, but I don't know what the manager's going to do, and he's going to have to make a decision. He might look at it and go, look, they're not quite up to the standard that I want, or one of them is and the other two aren't, or whatever. But if that happens, then someone like Victor Gyökeres could be the man that comes in to replace some of them. We've got some more transfer link stories here as well. If you want to play that one that you just highlighted, you can see here United have reportedly sent out scouts to watch two FC Porto players ahead of the January transfer window. So looks like United. There was this rumour on there that United weren't gonna do any business. Not rumour. The sort of common thinking is that United won't do any business in January. We haven't got the funds. It's more likely going to be in the summer. But you can see here that we've looked at left back Francisco Moura and forward Samu Agi-Hoa. According to the Daily Mail, the pair were in action for Porto's league match against Amorim's former club Casa Pia on Monday. So we are going to get links. It was like with tonight, we got linked with loads of players in Holland. We probably will get linked with a lot of players from the Portuguese league, but it might be a little bit different. Don't forget as well, Ruben Amorim is coming in as head coach. Now I'm sure he's got a say in transfers, but I don't think we're just going to end up buying loads of players from the Portuguese league. Not if it's not just down to him who we buy. The likes of Dan Ashworth, the likes of Jason Wilcox should be involved in those discussions as well. And because he is head coach rather than a manager, you think that it won't just be his remit to focus on transfers. It's more to focus on the squad he's got. So whilst I expect him to have input, I'd be very surprised if he saw United becoming a bit of a Portuguese 11. Ruben Amorim's been talking about Luke Shaw as well. I think this is this might be from like it's from this morning. It's in the Evening News. It says no matter. Ruben Amorim makes promise to Luke Shaw after latest Man United injury nightmare. Luke Shaw's picked up an hamstring injury. You can see there. I'm sure we all know this. We saw the post from Luke Shaw himself, and it says here, Ruben Amorim will give Luke Shaw as long as he needs to return to fitness for Manchester United and England after praising the work he had put in to get himself fit before his latest setback. Shaw had come off the bench for 3 successive games as he works his way back from injuries. Had kept him out of his club side since February, but he sustained a hamstring injury on the eve of United's trip to Arsenal, and he's now set for another period out. You can get rid of that now, thank you. Listen, I feel for Luke Shaw, I do. It's not his fault he's always injured. He's not doing it deliberately. And there is a player there. We've seen it. We've seen when Luke Shaw is on it, he's one of the best left-backs in the world. He really is, and that might sound a little bit melodramatic, but we've seen the levels he can reach. I think Luke Shaw technically is one of the best players we've got. It's just injuries. He's had a horrendous time of injuries. And the sad thing was, obviously he had that awful injury against, was it PSV in the Champions League under Louis van Gaal. He came back eventually. Had issues with Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho was very, very critical of Luke Shaw. Preferred Ashley Young. Didn't really sort of show any love towards Luke Shaw. Was publicly, used to criticise him, saying, if he had my brain, he'd be okay, and I have to sort of tell him what to do all the time. And just there was rumours and reports that Mourinho had been a little bit of a bully towards him, and I don't use that word lightly, but that was what was being reported in the press, that some of the other United players were a bit shocked and disheartened by the way Luke Shaw was being treated by Jose Mourinho. However, under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we saw Luke Shaw getting back towards his best form. He's always been that player, though, hasn't he, Luke Shaw, who's needed some sort of challenge. He's needed someone breathing down his neck for that left-back spot, whether that's Brandon Williams, whether that's Alex Telles for a little while, Tyrell Malacia as well. He's always been played better when he's had that sort of threat of losing his place. And we've seen Luke Shaw do some good things. He got into the England team because of his performance with Manchester United, obviously scored a goal in the Euros final, did very well. But we've also seen these... not just injuries as well. We have had patchy moments with his form. Let's not kid ourselves. But it's mainly injuries. And then you look, I think over the last 4 or 5 years, he's missed over 50% of the games. I mean, that's unsustainable. You can't have a defender. You can't have anyone, but especially a defender where you want to try and get a settled defence. And it's a shame because Luke Shaw could operate in 2 positions in a Ruben Amorim side. You could have him on the left-hand side of a back 3, or you could have him as a wing-back. I think he could play very well in either of those positions. And I think it'd suit him, but he's just injured. And I think he probably would have played last night if he was fit. If he was fully fit, I think with Lisandro Martinez being out, he could have come into that left-hand side of that back 3 and done a job for you. But what is it? Ronaldo Brown said the best ability is availability, and Luke Shaw just not available. So it's good to see the managers backing him. I hope we do see him again sooner rather than later. But you have to wonder how much long left at Manchester United has he got. He's been here since 2014. I think he's one of our, if not our longest serving player. I think he might be our longest serving player. Certainly, from first. I know some players have been here since they were kids, but in the first team, I think he is our longest serving player. But he's just constantly injured, isn't he? He really is. Just one final one. Roy Keane went quite hard on Marcus Rashford for giving away the corner. We saw this. We were talking about this. The overlap did a watch along. You won't have seen it because you'll have been watching our watch along. But Roy Keane said, since Rashford's come on, his general players of football is shocking. Have United subs given them anything since coming on? He has been just so sloppy with the ball. And I think he goes, I think is there more? I think you get rid of that. It's all right, it's fine. He was getting a lot of grief, Marcus Rashford, for giving away that corner. Now, listen, I was annoyed at the time, I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen people defending him, saying, look, he slipped. It's not like he did it deliberately. He was trying to clear the ball and he slips or whatever. But my main concern with Marcus when he came on wasn't giving that corner away. Yes, he gave the corner away and he shouldn't have done, and we obviously conceded from it, which makes it worse because we had 40. I think they had 14 corners at Arsenal, and that was one of the ones they conceded with. Had we not conceded, it wouldn't have been an issue, but we did, so it is. The problem I had was going forward, Marcus didn't do anything really. And then there was that weird thing where Amad Diallo was getting a lot of joy and we seemed to sort of swap it round or stop giving him the ball, and that didn't work. And I think everyone is on notice here. Everyone is on notice with Ruben Amorim. He's going to be looking at every single one of these players. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your wages are, doesn't matter how long you've been at the club, doesn't matter what you've done in the past, yeah? It really doesn't. You can have scored 100 goals in the last 2 seasons. That's not the issue. What matters is what you do for Ruben Amorim. That is what's going to matter. And if you're not performing for him, he ain't going to care if 2 seasons ago you got 30 goals. He isn't. So Marcus Rashford, he had a good game against Everton. He obviously scored in Amorim's first game. But he's one of those players that Amorim will be looking at. And if he plays like he did last night, I think he's going to struggle, to be honest with you. There's a lot of people want him to be sold or saying he should be sold. I keep hearing this, people saying about PSG. I don't know how serious the interest in PSG or from PSG is. I just know if you don't play for this manager, you ain't going to get in. Nick says invisible last night. Yeah. Lamp says United can't progress with Rashford in the team. He's a net negative for the club. Bernardino says Marcus will be put on notice. Also, Akash K says another ineffective game from Garnacho as well. Jay, yeah. I mean, again, these are players that I defend and I like, and you've always heard me sticking up for him, and I get stick because of it. I get grief. You're not sticking up for him. But Garnacho, who I feel sorry for Garnacho because he's been overplayed at times. He was 30 games on a spin. He started when he was still, I think, when he was 19 and 20. But he's another one who needs to sort of show Ruben Amorim what he's about. Yes, he's still young. I think he's 20 years old. There's a possibility he can kick on. I think the issue with Marcus is he's 27 and people looking at him going, this should be your peak. Don't think it's anywhere near Alejandro Garnacho's peak. But for the right here and now, if you're the manager and you're looking at what Alejandro Garnacho is doing for you, looking at some of his decision making, it isn't great. And he struggled last night. And last night was one of the few games where he looked like he'd lost a bit of confidence. He did. He wasn't running at the defenders like he normally did. There was a couple of times where he had the ball and there was a bit of space. And now Alejandro Garnacho, whether you love him or loathe him, he's one of those players that he will always try and get forward. He will always, he's sort of narrow-minded, single-mindedness is like, get forward, get into that danger area and try and make something happen. I think the problem is once he gets in that danger area, sometimes he can be a bit greedy or his decision-making can be poor. But what we saw last night was almost a reluctance at times to really go for it. And that's a worry if he is suffering from a bit of a lack of confidence. Let me know what you think. Sorry, what's this? Santa Notch says, you're going to ban the homophobe as well. Sorry, I've missed that, Notch. If there is someone who is being homophobic, then absolutely, we will ban them. I don't know what that is. Sorry, I missed that. Can we just keep monitoring the... Sorry? Yeah, we will monitor the chat, and if anyone is being homophobic, then they will get banned for life from this channel. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who got involved in the chat. and the comments. We're going to be back later on. We've got Off the Bar. It's going to be myself, Stephen Howson, Adam McCullough, and Joe Smith. So make sure to check that out. Plus, we'll have Laurie Whitwell coming in for a chat as well. So make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. I'm Jay Moy. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.